Hi everyone, I'm Pranjal Agarwal from second year CSE and I'm a member of Coding Studio. I welcome you all to this week's CS Saturday session. And before we get started, I just want to say that let's try and keep this interactive and feel free to ask doubts anytime. If I'm not clear anywhere, then you can ask anything. You can raise your hand and Saikiran will unmute you. You can ask anything or feel free to use the chat box. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah, so what we are going to discuss today are these two really important topics. I'm sure you're going to use these topics when you start when you start participating in any contests or in challenges, and these two are like very interesting. We will start by discussing what are prime numbers, and then we will talk about the sieve of Eratosthenes, and then we'll talk about GCD and how to find GCD using the Euclid's algorithm. Okay, so I told you that these topics are really important, but why am I stressing on the importance and the uses of this topic is that uh, so let's say I give you a problem and you know how you're going to solve it. Okay, you understood the problem and you know how you're going to go about it to arrive at the expected output, and then you write the code, and like it works for a few test cases, but after you submit you get something like this. So you see the screenshot right here. There are two tasks are show AC and the other two tasks show TLE. For those of you who don't know, TLE is stands for time limit exceeded, and this we don't want this. Okay, so this is basically like your code is running, it's giving you the correct output, but it's taking too long to solve your problem. Okay, so in situations like these we need really quick algorithms. Like uh, you should get what you want really quick. So which is why we'll use these algorithms. And yeah, so now that we know why this is important, let's get started. So what are prime numbers? So basically, by definition, a prime number is a number that is divisible, I mean, exactly divisible by just one end itself, right? If a number, you write down the factors of a number, when you write down the factors of a number, all you should have is one and the number itself. We say 7 is prime because the factors of 7 are just 1 and 7. Okay, so keeping this in mind, would you agree if I said that any number which is a multiple of some number is not prime? Right? Makes sense, right? If a number is a multiple of some number, let's say if I take 14, 14 is 7 multiplied by 2. So when I write down the factors of 14, I have 1, 2, 7, and 14. So 14 is not prime. This point, the simple point that any multiple is not a prime number, is the key to arrive at the sieve of Eratosthenes. This is what we are going to rely on when we implement the sieve of Eratosthenes. So yeah, let's keep this in mind for now, that any number which is a multiple of some number is definitely not prime. Okay. Now moving on. Uh, yeah. So what would be if I ask you to write down the prime numbers up to a number n? How would you go about it? Like, what is the naive approach to this? You know, if I did not know anything about algorithms, if I did not know anything about code optimization, my first approach would be that if I want to calculate prime numbers up to 7, I'll start looking for prime numbers from 2. Okay, 0 and 1 are definitely not prime. Okay, so I'll check if 2 is prime or not. Then if it is prime, I'll say yes, and then 3, and then 4. So I'll keep checking up to n numbers, and I'll keep checking. I'll divide those numbers until the previous one to check if it is prime or not. If it is exactly divisible, then it is not prime, right? So this is the naive approach to this. Like, this is the brute force approach to this, and this will give you a time complexity of order of n square, which is really high. Okay, now after implementing the sieve of Eratosthenes, if we find out prime numbers using this, we will arrive at a time complexity of n into log of n. which is way less than n square, and you will see how we will arrive at this. Okay, so let's just dive right in. Uh, let's just try understanding what the sieve actually is. So the sieve of Eratosthenes is an algorithm for finding all prime numbers up to a given limit. Okay, in this animation, you see I'm trying to find out all the prime numbers up to 99. So what is a sieve basically? We have this sieve in our homes, right? You put your atta, your maida into it, and then when you want to filter it out, like when you sieve it, the fine powder is left down, and then all the rough material, all the unwanted substances left in the sieve. That's exactly what the sieve of Eratosthenes does for finding out prime numbers. Okay, first we will start off with all the numbers up to n, up to our limit. All the numbers we will start off with all the numbers, and then we will just keep removing the numbers that are not prime, so that in the end we are only left with prime numbers. The sieve of Eratosthenes basically does this. So let's try to look at the step-by-step process of implementing this. First, the first step is to declare a Boolean array of size n. Okay, you know what? Let's not declare any arrays now. Let's just try to understand how this works in human language. Let's not get into the coding part already. So, first, what I'm going to do is I do not know. Okay, like what all the prime numbers up to n, I don't know. So I'll just start by considering that all the prime numbers are all the numbers are prime. So if I'm trying to find out the prime numbers up to 100, then my first step will be to think that all the numbers up to 100 are prime. Then what I'm going to do is I'll just you remember what I told you the key point was, right? The multiples of any number will not be prime. So after considering all the numbers are prime, I'll try to remove all the numbers that are not prime. That means I will check off all the I will strike off all the multiples. I'll start from 2. Okay, what's the next multiple of 2? It's 4, then 6. So up to 100, I'm going to cross off all the multiples of 2. This way my numbers are less, right? Now after crossing off all the multiples of 2, I have very less numbers to check. Then I'll go to 3. Then I'll cross off all the multiples of 3. This way what's happening is the array that we have to actually check for prime is decreasing continuously. First the 2 multiples are gone, then the 3 multiples are gone. Like that I'm going to check until okay, we will arrive at that condition until where we will check. So yeah, now let's get to the coding part of this. Okay, so all right, getting into the coding part of the sieve of Eratosthenes. First is to declare a Boolean array of size n plus 1. A Boolean array is basically just a simple array that will take true or false values. That's it. The array elements will be either true or false. Now, the reason why I'm taking this array of size n plus 1 is that you know how array indices work, right? If I'm declaring an array of size 3, then the array indices will be a of 0, a of 1, and a of 2. So I want to calculate the numbers, all the prime numbers up to n. So I'd like that indices to have n as well. So when I'm declaring the array of size n plus 1, my last index will be n. So there's no complicated logic behind it. It's just that I want the index n to be there. So I'm declaring an array of size n plus 1. And then, like I said, we are going to consider that all the time. So I'm going to set all the array elements as true. Then mark all multiples of next true index as false starting from I square. Okay, let's go step by step. The first step is to declare a Boolean array, right? So I have my headers in place, and I have my function. Like I'm going to write my function, then I'll call it in the main function. Okay. So let's start writing our function. First, I'm declaring a Boolean array. I'll call this array prime, and it will be of size n plus 1. Okay. Now for setting all the array elements to true, I'm going to use this function called memset. I'll tell you what this function does. Okay, so what memset function does is it will start from, it is taking 3 parameters here, right? The memset function will start from this memory, and it will go until this block, the third parameter block of memory. It will set all the values to the second value, whatever you give. Okay, it might be confusing. Let me just make it simple. Okay, so the first parameter is prime here. So for any array, the name of the array will point to the 0th index. This is true for any array, right? This is true for uh, so when I'm giving the first parameter as prime, what I'm telling this memset function is, you start from here, okay? Start from the 0th index and cover this block of memory. What, you know what size of function does? The size of function will give you the size of the array, whatever, like I'm giving prime here, so it will return the size of the prime array. Or if you give int inside it, if you give let's say, if you give size of int, okay, this will give you 2, because int data type uh, uses 2 bytes of memory, right? I hope you're clear about the size of function. And so what I'm telling this memset function is, start from 0th index, go to this, go until this block of memory and set all the values to true. Now after this memset function, what is going to happen is, prime of 0, prime of 1, prime of 2, like all these array elements will have the value true, right? So what is our last element? This will go up until prime of n, okay? Because the size is n plus 1, our last index will be n, and the value will be true. For now, all the numbers are like we are assuming all the numbers are prime. Okay, so the next step will be now after okay, after this I'm going to check if the, okay, wait, let me just, in this for loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate over every element, right? Now let's say that in my first iteration, like I said, we are going to cross off all the multiples of 2. That cross off thing, what I'm saying is, I will mark these as false. I will set these array elements as false. Now in my first iteration, what's going to happen is, starting from 4, 4, 6, 8, 10, let's say I'll do this till 20, okay? 11, I'm sorry, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. All these elements will become false, right? Because all these elements are multiples of 2. Now, in the next iteration, I'm going to cross off all the multiples of 3, okay? Starting from now, when I reach at 3, you see 3 into 2 is 6, but 6 is already crossed off. Why? Because it comes in multiples of 2 as well. So I don't want extra iterations, right? I want to reduce the time complexity. So in order to reduce our extra iterations, what we will do is, I will start from 9. When I'm crossing off the multiples of 3, after that, I'll check the next true index, because now I don't have to check for multiples of 4. Why? Because the multiples of 4 are already the multiples of 2. Now 4 into 2 is 8, which is already a multiple of 2. So it's crossed off in the first iteration itself. The next number that I'm going to check will be 5. So let me write a condition here, that check only the check only if the value is true, okay? Because 4 is already false, it's all multiples will be false, that's for sure. Now in the next iteration, I will only be checking for the multiples of 5. That too, I will start from 25, right? Why will I start from 25? Because 5 into 2, 5 into 3, and 5 into 4 are already crossed off in the previous iterations, okay? I hope it's clear. Now, prime of P, if it is true, only then go on to this loop. Now this will be like the core. Okay, this loop is basically what is doing all the work for us. Now for int I equals to p into p, like we are starting from the square of that number, and then I'll check if it is less than n, less than or equal to n. And what, by how much will I increment this is, now I'm only going to check for multiples, right? So the difference between two multiples is the number itself. The difference between 5 and 10 is 5. So I'm going to increment this by p itself, right? This way I'll get all the multiples. Now I'll set these as false. Okay, so now this is basically it. This is the sieve of Eratosthenes. Okay, let me just go through it for you once again. This is I'm declaring a Boolean array. I'm setting all the elements to true. Now, since all the elements are true, I of course have to just keep putting false to the elements that are not prime, right? For that, I'm going to iterate over all the elements. Now, in order to save time, I will only iterate over the elements that are true. Okay, then I will check for multiples of each number. So when I run the loop for 2 for the first time, all the multiples of 2 will be false. Okay, now after that I'll check if the next, after that it's incrementing to 3. Okay, here we have p plus plus, it is incrementing to 3. I'll check if 3 is true, prime of 3 is true. Yeah, prime of 3 is true. Then I will start from checking from p square, right? I will check from 9 because 6 is already marked false in the previous iteration since it's a multiple of 2 as well. Okay, so from 9 I will start checking and then I will set it to false. 9 is false now. Okay, it will continue checking multiples of 3, then it will get incremented to 12. Okay, it will set it false. It will continue for all the multiples of 3 until n. And then after we are done with all the multiples of 3 until n, it will go and increment to 4. Okay, then it will check if prime of 4 is true, but prime of 4 is false. Okay, so since prime of 4 is false, I don't have to check for multiples of 4 because all the multiples of 4 are already multiples of 2. Those are already false, so I'll just it'll save me time, right? It won't check for multiples of 4. Then it will go to 5. 5 is not a multiple of any number, so it has not been crossed, it has not been marked false, which means it is true. Now it will check for the multiples of 5. Okay, so by now I hope this is clear for you. Now I will write a for loop to print out all these elements which are true in the end, right? So okay, I will start this from 2 because anyway we know that 0 and 1 are not prime. So I'll start running this loop from 2 and I'll check if it is less than n, and I'll increment it p plus plus. Okay, now I'll check if it's true. We need only the prime numbers, right? Only the numbers that are left true in the end. Okay, so this will run, this will iterate through the whole array and only give us the numbers that are true. Okay, now in the main function, okay, now in the main function, I will take an input from the user. I will ask them to give me a number n, and then I will call this function by passing that number n. Okay, and this will print out the elements for me. Okay, so let's try and run this. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't. Right, so let me give a small number, 7. Okay, so you see 2, 3, 5, 7 are printed, right? Let's run this for 1000. Okay, we have all the prime numbers up to 1000. Guys, do you have anything to ask? Do you want me to run this and check for another number for you? Okay, so yeah, this is basically the SIBO of Eratosthenes. I hope it's clear for you, and if it's not, please feel free to ask.
What if I wanted to print the sum of primes still given, and what would I do then?
Okay, so you want to print the sum of all the primes, right?
I mean, yeah, if I give an input n, then I would want to print the sum of all primes till n.
Yeah, okay. So you just keep in this for loop. What we will do is we will just I'll start with sum equals to 0. Now, whenever this is true, that is whenever this index has, this index is prime, I am going to add that index to sum. Okay. So initially I set sum to 0, and then as we get all the prime numbers, it will each be getting added to sum, and yeah, this way we can get the sum of all the prime numbers. So let's try and check
Yeah, give
this.
20 maybe. Okay.
Okay. uh,
Until
give
maybe add like a handle after this sum.
yeah
Yeah. Give 20, and also what if the sum of the prime numbers become really large? What do you think int will be enough then?
no, well, in that case,
Yeah.
one thing. Okay, let's give some. Sorry, let's output some after the for loop is finished. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So you said for
Large values,
large
right?
values, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can use long int here, and it will still work. You can give any large values to this, and this will still work. Yeah.
So I'm not talking about the number itself, but the sum. I mean, you need the sum variable also to have the long identifier, right?
Yeah. Is that it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for large numbers also this will work, and since its time complexity is really low, so yeah, we can use this for long numbers as well.
So can you explain why I would use this instead of the normal, intuitive prime number checking algorithm, where we check it with each number? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, when if we use that approach, like checking if each number is prime, that is like it is taking up too much time, right? Like if I'm going to check like prime numbers until 9, now I'll check if first 0 and 1 are anyway not prime. I'll check if 2 is prime or not. And I'm going to check by dividing each number until the previous number. Okay. So if I want to say I want to check if 5 is prime or not, I'll divide it by 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will take a lot of iterations and a lot of time, which is why this is more efficient.
Okay, so you mean to say that this algorithm, is much faster than the normal one we use?
Normal, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So anything else? Okay. So shall we move on?
Yeah, Pranshal, move on, please.
Okay, so the next next topic we are going to discuss is the Euclid's algorithm for finding out GCD. GCD is the greatest common divisor, and yeah, so what, like, a greatest common divisor is basically, I give you two numbers A and B. The common divisors of A and B will be the numbers that divide both A and B exactly. Like A and B should not leave any remainder. They should leave remainder 0 when when divide by their GCD. Right now, the greatest of all the common divisors is your GCD. Now, okay, so how we are going to implement the Euclid's algorithm basically works this way. Okay, the GCD of A and B will be equal to the GCD of B and A mod B. So let's see why this statement over here is right. Okay, so what is GCD basically? It's just your common divisors. The greatest of all common divisors is your GCD. Okay, so now I have two numbers A and B. For a number, I will consider that GCD of this number is G. Now for G to be the GCD of A and B, it has to divide A exactly. It has to divide A without any remainder, and it has to divide B without any remainder. So when I divide these two numbers by G, I should get the remainder as 0, right? So yeah, I should get the remainder as 0. Now, what I said, that slide, what did it say? It said that GCD of A and B will be equal to GCD of B and A mod B. Okay, let's understand this by like, we will understand this using division algorithm. What is the division algorithm? Now if I divide A by B, I can write A is equals to B into Q1 plus R, right? Let's say R1. So this is the division algorithm that we use generally. Now this here, A is the dividend, B is the divisor, Q1 is the quotient when I divide A by B, and R1 is the remainder. Now when I divide A by B, I get R1 as remainder. That means, like, it basically is A mod B, right? A mod B is R1. Now okay, now if I replace this A here, like if I replace this statement, A in this statement by this division algorithm here, what I will what you'll notice is that B into Q1 plus R1 should exactly be divisible by G, right? This is basically our A. In order for A to be exactly divisible by G, B into Q1 plus R1 should be exactly divisible by G. Now this can be written as B into Q1 is exactly divisible by G, and R1 is also exactly divisible by G. Now, since I assume that this is true, if B is divisible by G, then B into Q1 is divisible by G. All we have to worry about is this R1 here. Now, R1 should exactly be divisible by G, right? So, which is why I'm considering that. Okay, you know what? Let's do one more step for this. Now, if I when I say that GCD of A and B is equal to GCD of B and A mod B, basically B is replacing A over here and A mod B is replacing B over here, right? So now I can write this as B is equal to A mod B is R1, right? R1 into Q2 plus R2. So this statement is implying this. Okay, now if I divide B with R1, Q2 will be my quotient and R2 will be my remainder. Now in order for this to be exactly divisible by G, again, the same process goes over here. R1 Q2 should be exactly divisible by G, and R2 should be exactly divisible by G. Now this process will keep going on until this R2, that is, like if I generalize this, my last term would be Rn minus 1 Qn plus Rn. Now until this Rn becomes 0, I have to keep repeating this process. Okay, so I will repeat this process until Rn becomes 0. So that now that's when I'll arrive at the GCD of A comma B. So what I'm basically doing here is the long division method that we've always been using in our school, like, you divide this in order to find GCD. This is what we've been using, right? We replace the divisor by the quotient and the we replace the divisor by the remainder, and the this divisor becomes the dividend and the remainder becomes the divisor. That's basically what we kept doing, and this is what we are going to use here in the Euclid GCD as well. So I hope this was clear, why GCD of A and B is equal to GCD of B and A mod B. Okay. So and also, when will this end? This will end when one of these becomes 0, and like, when will these become 0? Like, this remainder part has to be 0, right? So what I'm going to write here is, okay, first I am going to use recursion for writing this. I'll check if B became 0 or not. If B became 0, then return A. Okay, and until to make B 0, I'm going to keep calling this function again and again by replacing the dividend with B and the divisor with A mod B. Okay, so I will keep calling this function until B becomes 0. Okay, yeah, so this is basically it. Like, this is the Euclid's algorithm, and in the main function I'm taking 2 inputs from the user, and I'm calling the function here, right? So let's try running this. Give me any 2 numbers. 1260. So the GCD of 1260 is 12. That's it, you guys. So this is basically how your GCD is working. In the first recursion call, for if I'm to find out the GCD of 15 and 72, first this is A and this is B. In the first recursion, I'm replacing this with B and A mod B, right? What is 15 mod 72? It's 15. Okay, and B goes over here, that is 72 and 15. Okay, in the second recursion, it will find out 72 mod 15, and that is 12, and 15 goes here, right? And then 15 mod 12 will be 3, and 12 comes here. Okay, then 12 mod 3 will finally be 0, and whatever is left here, that is 3, is your GCD. That's about it. That's it about the Euclid's GCD and Siva of Eratosthenes. I hope these concepts were clear for you. And if you have any doubts, then shoot. Use the chat box or you can unmute yourself.
Thank you for coming for this session, and we hope to see you again in the next session. Bye.
Thank you.